Apparently that wasn't actually live, but it's better than nothing.
And Paris disappeared. Where'd he go?
You can hear him fumbling in the background, so he's probably
sorry.
Cool.
No, I'm getting my conflicted cards. Cards.
Those of you joining in all over the web, we are currently broadcasting live. This is our weekly live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Join us as we discuss all things preparedness, all things ready-minded. Tonight, we're going to be going through Conflicted, the card game, asking some pointed questions, some questions that could tear you up inside, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Or save your life, one of the two.
Or save your life.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some hard questions, so pay attention. And if you have one, please comment in the comments, and we'll read that question to everybody to answer. But as a reminder, we are brought to you today by our good friends over at Blackbeard Firestarter. Go to blackbeardfire.com and use the code PrepperTalk, PrepperTalk. Prepper Talk. Save 10% on all your orders. I love my Pirates Plunder. I don't know if you guys have one yet. There's a lot of cool stuff, but the ferro rod that comes in here, the lighter that comes in here, they're really great. The best part about it, though, is their Blackbeard ropes, their Firestarter ropes. Cut it open, fray it off. You can even get it wet, and these things light really easily. So check it out. We're excited to be working with them, and excited to be bringing cool stuff to you guys. I'll be doing a review on their stuff here pretty soon, so you can see it on our YouTube channel. So if you're a subscriber, you'll see that when it comes out, especially if you have the notifications on. It'll tell you as soon as we drop that. But we've got some other videos that are about to drop that are some cool reviews. We got a new review on the Jace case. If you want to save money over there, use the promo code PrepperTalk, and you'll save $10 on any orders there. But then we also have some other cool products that Shane just did some videos on. So guys, wherever you are, you need to be over on our YouTube, because that's where all the cool stuff's about to be happening. And then you also need to be in our Facebook group, because that's where we are almost daily talking to everybody.
All right, sounds good.
So, are you conflicted yet?
No, I'm not conflicted.
It's funny because we've done this before, and like a lot of the scenarios, I'm like, pew pew, get rid of them, But it depends. Things change now that I've got kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed a lot of scenarios.
That's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's a huge difference between a lot of potential preppers out there that are kind of the hardcore, really, and that's fine, and that's a place for that. But when you've got a family and other things to consider, it's just different. It's not, it's not better or worse. It's just different. So you got to be aware of that. So
I guess we need to get into this game here.
Does anybody? I mean, I can start it off with kind of a description of what this game is. It's a card game that was created with different scenarios. And what the idea is that it's got the traditional, as you can see, like that's an ace. And then it's got all the different ace of spades. And then we got the five of clubs. And the language that's on there is a scenario that you can read. So as you play the game, what happens is that in a group of people, you would read the scenario. It says, for example, this one: the government called all able men and their weapons to volunteer and leave their families and help defend the country against a foreign enemy invasion. You aren't a big fan of your current government, but this is your country. There are no guarantees that you can return alive. Your country's military forces are fighting all over the country and the world, and they just don't have enough men. Would you be a patriot and go, or would you stay and protect your family? So every one of these cards has a similar scenario like that, and Conflicted put together several different decks that have different things. Like this deck is this deck here that I have is all quotes, like patriot quotes, or like just really constitutional quotes, or just founding fathers and stuff like that. So this one is all about things like that. And I know Shane and Scott, you guys have different decks too, don't you?
Mm-hmm. The only one I've got on me is the patriot quote, so I can't really use that right now. The other one's got put in a box with all of our other prepping games. My wife had to get hyper organized.
I've got Financial Collapse. I've got the New World Series number 3, and I've got the original Conflicted deck. I've got 8 others as well. So those are the 3 I have out right at the moment.
And I actually know. I know you guys. I know you guys know the owners, the creators of Conflicted too, because I know one of the owners or the guys who created it. So it's really cool to have had experience like that. I wonder if I can get him. Maybe we can get some of those guys on a podcast once with us, and that'd be cool. But
All right,
maybe we can start with that one I read, or we can start another one off to see what you guys want to do.
Yeah, no, I start with yours. You might need to read it again. I was busy.
Yeah, okay. The government called all able men and weapons to volunteer and leave their families to help defend the country against the foreign enemy invasion. You aren't a big fan of your current government, but this is your country. There are no guarantees that you can return alive. Your country's military forces are fighting all over the country and the world, and they just don't have enough men. Would you be a patriot and go, or would you stay and protect your family? So what would you guys do? What would you do?
Well, see, that's the word that is the conflicting word there is patriot, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does that really mean to you? Scott, you were going to say something? You were pretty quick. I kind of jumped in.
I was going to say, yeah. So, and we got all of Tara's joined in. I freaking love. Okay. If you guys aren't following these guys, they have a channel. They're all about raw milk. They're all about homesteading. They're fantastic. Great people. Thanks for joining us tonight. You guys seriously go follow their channel as well. But that question, yes, the trigger word is patriot, but here's the life example that I've got that I look back to in history. So for those of you listening, some of you know we're all LDS, what a lot of people lovingly refer to as crazy Mormons. There was in a time there was a Mormon battalion created because the government called on the Mormons that they just kicked out of the country to come help fight. We'd left. We're now in what's called Mexico, and we contacted Mexico and said, "Hey, we're going to annex this land from you," and they're like, "No," or they're like, "Fine, yes, no." They didn't even respond, and so we occupied the land. We totally squatted. And that land is now California all the way to Utah. It's huge. This huge land. It was called the state of Deseret. But many of us are moving out there, or our ancestors, part of them were called the Mormon Battalion because they were asked by our prophet to go and serve the country that just kicked us out, to go protect their trade routes. That's how ridiculous it was. And they did, and they were faithful. But they were promised by a prophet of the Lord that their families would be protected while they were gone, and they were. But here's the thing. How is it now? Mm-hmm. I look at that question and I go, okay, that's a case-by-case scenario. I'm going to have to pray. This is why you have to get close to God. I would have to pray and ask God, like, what am I to do? Right? What am I to do to take care of all this? And my first initial response is I'm going to go fight, because both ways I'm protecting my family. But what's the right answer is going to be 100% dictated by my Heavenly Father. His answer is my answer. And it'll probably be to be a patriot, right? Because once America goes, there's no last place of freedom, right? We know that. And if we have to destroy whatever enemies coming in, and then at the same time take out our government and restructure it, so it's back to the original Constitution, and get rid of all. There's a comment in here: Ukraine or Russia. Which side am I on? Right. Get rid of all those influences that don't belong in our government, and get them back to what we created, what our founding fathers created, and were intended for us to be. But conflicted. I mean, shoot, I could be gone in a day. Like I could be the first guy shot. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's another trigger word there, of course, because they want you to feel that shame. If you don't go, you're not, the opposite would be you're not a patriot. Well, can you be a patriot and not go? You can still be a patriot and not go because you're protecting your family, which is actually your first and foremost. That's your first responsibility. One of our taglines is God, family, country. And that's the right order. So, for me is, I know the country doesn't have enough men. I know that they don't have enough things happening out there. And if it's as bad as this particular scenario says, then it's likely there's going to be civil unrest. It's likely there's going to be an invasion. And so somebody can be home to maybe you can coordinate and say, okay, if there's 2 or 3 guys, you can go and I'll go and you stay and protect the family, or some kind of combination like that. There's always, what's funny about these things is it just seems like it's just what's one answer? Well, there's a lot of scenarios. There's a lot of things, like Scott was saying, there's a lot of things that go into it to really give you a true answer.
What? There's no factors to figure out. Come on. It's just this. It's just black and white. I mean,
you're either a patriot or you're not, you jerk.
And
You either go
the
fight or you
crazy thing.
don't.
It's like, in our last episode, if you guys haven't been in our last episode, it's those watching live right now. It'll be launched next Tuesday, but if it's after January, guys, it's in our archive, episode 240. Go listen to it. We're talking about kind of the trigger words, keywords, the things that they use to force you into a certain mindset or coerce you into believing a certain way. So that's what that's all about. But let's jump into the next card. I love covering these, and if you guys have a response to any of these, feel free to put them in the notes, and we'll share them with you.
I got one.
Okay.
Go.
All right. One of your friends became a problem that could put at risk the lives of the entire group, including your family. Your friend won't stop his reckless behavior and refuses to be thrown out of the group since he contributed to it, and his wife and children have nowhere to go. He has lost it, and now he is putting the entire group at risk. But no one has the heart to deal with this but you. You tried to have a serious conversation, but that still didn't work. How would you handle this situation, and why?
So
I think this is very
basically,
realistic. Could very easily happen.
So you used to be a great friend. He's in your group, and now he's a major disaster for the group.
Exactly. Yep.
We talked about this in one of our episodes about you can't save everybody. And if somebody becomes a liability to your group, you got to deal with that. That's a good one, Shane.
The question is, how do you deal with it? And so obviously the time to think about this is now, and before it actually happens. So I think this is a really, really timely one. And honestly, I don't know if I have an answer. Yeah, you tell Mike. Yep. Captain. I mean,
Captain.
that's on the list. That's on the list. I mean, that is one of the options, right? But
the number one thing is having that difficult conversation, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. Like it said in the scenario, you've already talked to him. Well, what did you really though? Because it hasn't solved anything. And if you haven't really had that conversation where change is required, and you lay it on the line, like, look, if this doesn't change, I will be forced, or our group will be forced to do this, and make sure that the whole group is on the same level of here's what we do in these scenarios.
So you have a conversation with them like they would on the Yellowstone Ranch, right? Have you seen that show Yellowstone?
I think this is the conversation before you take him to the train station. But yeah, right.
Either take him to the train station and have the conversation, or have him dig a pit first, right?
That's another episode type, But I think really it is like, look, you've got to look at your group, and you have to have your group law. Like, if you look at it biblically, everybody's going to separate into tribes. That's where we're going next. And then we're going to all come back together with Christ. But in the meantime, like, your tribe has to have a rule of law for your tribe to stay safe and for people to stay alive. Your tribe, your community, your little prepping group, your whatever you want to call it, you have to have those rules in place. And you have to have your elders, if you will, I'm going to throw up air quotes, be able to make those decisions together and say, this is the outcome.
I think this is the most reasonable. He puts the group at risk, throw him out. He's out of there. He has to leave.
I guess you can learn something from Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I can never stomach the show. I never could stomach it.
It's not my cup of tea.
And there's a genuine emotional situation there, because that if that person leaves your group, there's a chance they're not going to make it on their own. Like,
well,
what are
there's
they
also
going
a bigger chance that they're going to go join another group and come back and take all your supplies because they feel so hurt by you, because they feel betrayed by you.
But then that's also a defensive situation as well, instead of offensive. I mean, it still would be defensive if you capped him, right? But obviously that's not the right choice. But
so there's a book, there's a Going Home series set of books by Angry American. Love him. He covers a lot of these types of questions in his books, and there's one where there's a couple, an older couple that lived in the neighborhood, and they have a son who had found two young women and had kept him in a shed type of building outside of the neighborhood, and was molesting and raping and hurting them. And when it was found out, the main character of the book shoots him, just kills him. It's like, nope, done. Wow. He'd already killed the two women, the bad guy did, and so he's like, done. Well, then the parents find out what happened and they go ballistic and they put the whole community at danger. And in the group, like as they're about to create like this riot group, he just pop and eliminates both those threats. They weren't being honest to begin with because they knew what their son was doing. They were already a danger emotionally, psychologically, legally, like they weren't abiding by the laws. They weren't abiding by trust. And that's the biggest thing you have to have in this situation before your friend goes nuts, is you have to have built up enough trust that you can have those hard conversations. Otherwise, you're going to go to that unresolvable solution. And that's the hardest part, right? You've got to protect your family and you've got to protect your community and the people who are adhering to those rules, adhering to the group agreements. That's the community. As soon as he's betrayed that, he's not part of the community until he either A, fixes it and comes back in, right? Or B, is separated from the group, whatever that means, right? If you have to chain him up to a tree in the wild and drop food off to him every once in a while and move your group to a safer location and still send somebody back to feed him, right? That's the prison, the new prison, right? Or maybe build a bunker to put him in. Like, I don't know what the right answer is. That's a tough one. Again, go to God and pray.
Yeah, absolutely. All
Vote
right.
karma off the island also. That's awesome.
I was just reading that
Utah Mike. Vote karma off the island. Yeah, and that's the reality. We've got how many different, and here's another thing that kind of prepares us for that is that these videos, these reality shows, voting people off. And if they're not, coordinating and being part of the deal, then they need to be, taken to a different, just think they need to be dealt with. That's the reality of it. You want me to find another one, or you got another one there, Shane?
Well, I've got another one, but I don't know if Scott wants to pull. You had just had
all right. You hear a noise in the back of your house, and you found about 12 orphans scavenging for food in your garbage cans. They appear to be kids under the age of 6 or 7 years old. Taking them in would diminish your supply timeline by at least 50%, and you aren't sure you can replenish your supplies once you run out. I could go on, but what do you do? What do you do?
I think obviously the right thing is to do is, and again, like you say, Scott, you got to pray. In this moment, you don't necessarily have time to pray about it, right? But you know what the right thing to do is, right? I've always believed that if I'm doing the right thing and I've got my food storage, I've got everything I need, that the barrel of meal won't waste, and the cruse of oil won't fail, right? Just like Elijah and the widow of Zarephath. Yeah. So that's what I would hope that I would do.
Well,
they work for food program. Absolutely.
That's true. If they're out there scavenging, they're actually willing to be proactive about their situation. And so maybe you can send them out, because the reality is the kids are a great advantage in that kind of a scenario, because nobody's going to feel like taking one out. They can probably sneak through different areas and places, and they can get past defenses way easier than an adult could. So you could use those kids as part of your preparation, as part of your defense system, and say, "Hey, kids, we need 2." How many kids were there? 6? Half a dozen?
There was a half dozen, so 6, yeah.
So you could say 3 of you go out and scavenge for food.
There were 12. There's a full dozen. There were
so
6 and 7 years old, but there's a dozen of them.
You could break them up into little groups and say, "Hey, you guys go scavenge over there, you scavenge over there," and then we'll coordinate, and you can provide a little safety and a little,
or at least knowledge. Go get out and gather information.
Yeah, you could tell them, "Hey, we're looking for this kind of thing. We need this, we need that, we need the other." When you're out scavenging and you find these things, these are the things we need, and that it can actually help improve your situation. Yeah, it'll take a hit in the beginning, but you could actually, it could end up actually being a good thing. I think it'd be, and that's why I like that question, because I think it'd be a good thing. Yes, you're going to lose a lot of rations quicker, but with 12 additional sets of hands, you can now provide them with shelter. You can help provide them with food. They can start doing things like you can start growing more food, right? You can really get a trap line set up, and you're starting to catch local wildlife, right? I don't care where you live. There's squirrels, there's birds. Like you can learn to catch most things, right? Get them on job crews and build your community. More people to work the garden, right? There's more. I think there's blessings, and I 100% agree with Shane. I think that cruse of oil and that barrel of wheat, flour, they're gonna extend. In my own life, when we've had challenges and struggles financially,
like things have extended, and that's always been the promise of God. Like he does provide. Yes, if faith without works is dead, the bird still has to get out of the nest to go get the food in the morning and in the afternoon and the evening, just like we are.
Mhm.
Salvation is not contingent on that, but daily survival is. The Lord's provided everything. We just have to go get it. Ask him where to go get it. Ask him, okay, Heavenly Father, how do I help these 12 kids that are now living with us? I just became a dad of 12. Now I'd be dad of 14, basically. How do I support these kids? And they're his kids more than they're yours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kicker, is like, we've got to remember that. That's the hardest part. We've got to remember that they're his kids first. Just like our kids are his kids first. We're his kid first. Man, these are
Amen to
these are
that.
some tough questions. All right, next.
Paris, you got one, or should I go with another one?
I got one here. An electromagnetic pulse went off, and you have about 2 weeks worth of food and water in your pantry and $200 cash. You also have a handgun, about 300 rounds of ammo, and 4 more family members to look after. What would you buy with the $200 before total chaos took over, and why?
So I had 2 weeks of food?
2 weeks
that
of food and water. 2 weeks of food and water with you and four. So there's 5 people total with you and 4 family members, 300 rounds of ammo, and 2 weeks of food and water, and $200 cash.
I think no brainer for me. I think with the $200, you go buy more food.
I would buy 100% wheat. Here's why. I can put all that wheat in the ground, and it's going to take time for that to grow. But here's the cooler thing. I can take some of that wheat and boil it and have cracked wheat. And that increases its energy efficiency of what you can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So boil your wheat and have cracked wheat. I can also take some of that wheat and use it for growing super greens. And I can take some of that wheat and plant it for a future harvest, right? That's what I would do, like immediately. Depending on the time of year, though, that's the other thing. It's like, can I put wheat in the ground right now and have something to pull from, right? Maybe not buy it all wheat. As maybe get some beans or something.
Beans and
else
rice.
too.
Yeah.
But right now, like
buy beans.
Right now, I'm like, it's hard because I'm like, I'm looking across the room and I'm like, I've got a crap ton of wheat, of beans, of rice, like it's all right there. I'm looking at it. And so it's like, how do I imagine that as just 2 weeks worth of food? And what do I get?
Oats are great as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Oats are great.
But yeah, Scott has a point there. Yeah, you can plant that wheat, you can sprout it, you can crack it, you can do a lot with it. You can
or even any kind of seed. Any kind of seed. That's the reality is that if an EMP goes off, you've got about probably a week to 10 days. I don't even know if you have 2 weeks. You have about maybe a few days before all HE double hockey sticks is going to break loose, because people started to realize they didn't prepare properly. And so somebody with 2 weeks worth of food and $200 and 300 rounds of ammo, first of all, congratulations. Good job that you got at least that. That's better than not having anything. But the $200 cash, I'd probably go buy some, maybe another week's worth of food, and then some seeds for sure. Like I would try to get some seeds, because I think growing some seeds would be a good idea. The thing about the seeds, though, is that if all crap, if SHTF and you have a garden, you're going to be the topic of discussion in the neighborhood, because you have a garden and then you're growing stuff.
Isn't going to show anything for a couple of months. Right?
Yeah.
Well, depending on what you're growing, but like if it's wheat, it's not going to show anything for a little while. So they're going to be like, why did you just plow your backyard? Well, I didn't really plow it, so to speak. I just threw out some seeds. It's complicated. It's
you might even get a book on how to forage, like with the $200.
Oh my gosh, I just had an idea. This is terrible. Okay. So the EMP just happened, right? All the power's gone. You run to the library with your crowbar, you smash the window and go get all the survival books you can get that cover foraging, that cover trapping, and that cover gardening.
It doesn't cost you anything.
Home. So that's not. This isn't in order. That's a little bit later down the road. Number one, you go buy some food.
Yeah.
Number two, while you're out, you grab a map, and hopefully you've already done this, but you identify every facility that does either freeze-dried food, like all the production places of food in your area. So now that you're thinking about this question, it's like, okay, now you can have time to prep. So go think of all the places that do food production, whether it's canned, freeze-dried, I don't care what it is. They're going to have stuff there. The employers are going to leave and be like, I can't do my job, so I'm going to go home. You can go raid that if you have to with your neighborhood, and now everyone has a whole crap ton of wheat and a whole crap ton, right? You might have sugar and honey and all this other. Like, you go to the bakeries, whatever you have to do, right? We've got to keep each other alive at this point. But go get all that stuff, and then you can get all the books and stuff, and then 2-3 weeks down the road, if everything's still not working, which it won't be, then you go to like your Home Depots and everything else, because guess what? They've got food in the back. They've got all that crap food that's sitting out there in front, beef jerky and stuff like that. They've got that in the back too. So you might be able to go find and scrounge some of that. Facebook user just called me. You call yourself a prepper,
because you should already have all those books.
right? You should have all
this is the scenario reading on the card.
Yeah, we're reading the scenario on the card though.
Here's some of my library, right?
Yeah,
that I'm currently reading. Give me a break. Come on. But just run and grab all those stuff. Like, create a plan, and those 12 kids that you have now, take them over, and
they can work the garden.
They can work the garden. They can help you loot the all the stuff that's still around somewhere.
Yeah.
Who's
going to stop the kids? Who's going to stop the kids from looting?
When it comes time to loot, don't go to the stores, like the grocery stores, because those are going to be empty. Right? Think of the places that have everything else, and then maybe a little bit of food, and get those. Or go to the industrial areas of town and take your little red flyer wagon and whatever, right? And find there's other places. There's other places. Go to the bodies of water and start fishing.
Oh yeah, buy fishing poles with that $200,
right?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have it already, but like Facebook user said, you should already have that stuff.
So I got a real scenario next coming up, but Shane, go ahead. You got one?
Yeah, this is totally me. You guys will see this. You were wise and saved in gold and silver prior to the worst economic collapse your country has ever gone through. You have enough coin to keep things afloat for years to come. And it dawns on you that you could buy a few investments. What sort of investments would you make, or would you rather keep the coin on hand? I know my answer. Who else wants to answer that one?
My answer is that coin is that's what I consider it's not really, it's a store of value, but yeah, I would consider it an investment.
In this case, it is the investment, in my opinion. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, would I use it to go buy some more land? Probably. I don't think I'd call the land an investment, because we know how this all ends, right? We don't think there's going to be much of a return to normalcy. So as for an investment, you buy something, and then you intend to flip it and turn it around and make more money, make more currency off of it, right? I don't think that's going to happen again after that type of collapse. It's going to be a long time. So I would buy real assets, land, but I would hang on to the coin for as long as I can. I consider myself retired.
Every reset of an economy, of a world economic power, and right now the dollar, the petrodollar is the world reserve currency. Every time that changes hands from one country to the next, and it's happened, dozen times over the last 500 years, so maybe 600 years, whatever. Anyways, the point is that every time that a new economic power is established, it's done with gold and silver. And they take that's God's money. It's the money that was originally put here, as far as I'm concerned. It's real money. It's real exchangeable. It's value. It's intrinsic. It's got all the right features of real money. And so to have gold and silver, to me, if we're going to reestablish a whole economy, you got gold and silver, you're going to be one of the leaders in that economy. Number one. Number two, you're going to be able to trade that stuff for actual real goods, canned food, other, staples for clothing, textiles, stuff that you're going to be able to do. So having gold and silver on hand and in your possession, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the comment. Well, you can't eat gold and silver. And that's absolutely true. And I guess it really depends on how bad the situation gets. So take some of that and buy as much food as you can. And call that an investment, because you could always turn around and sell it for more, especially with the way inflation's going nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Well, going back, just jumping back to the prior one, like if it were an EMP in the financial collapse, like you double down on that, you're like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Some people will take gold and silver to begin with, but after a while, they won't. It won't matter until you rebuild a society. But going back, like, would I really loot? I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I don't think I could ever get myself to do that. So check out the books. Don't smash the window and grab them. Check the books out. But yeah, it's like having only 2 weeks. To me, that's the crazy side of things. Like, yes, I'm doing a dystopian response to it, but not to have gold and silver, that's the crazy side of things. Not to have food storage, that's the crazy side. Like, conflicted. Oh, I can't afford everything, right? Oh, I can't afford everything. I can't afford to prep. Well, no, stop buying everything else. Like, turn off streaming services. Turn off things that don't keep you alive, and maybe buy some stuff, right? Sandy Davis, eventually, Bible does say that the gold and silver will
be thrown in the streets.
Thrown in the streets, right? No value. Like, you spend the metals quickly, and we agree with that. Spend the metals quickly.
Agreed.
And I think in Zion, or in the when Christ comes again, we'll have a whole different situation with the economy and everything else. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think really it's like the simpler you can do things, the better, right? If the economy does completely dump, or banking systems all completely fail, or like whatever the scenario could be, like, do you have enough stuff that you can just continue on with life and grow more food and help in your community? Because your whole community is going to suffer. Like, this is going to take the wealthiest person and the poorest person and put us all on the same level, and everybody in between, right? So then at that point, how do we reestablish community? How do we reestablish a government?
Here's another quick comment, I guess, on that same gold and silver line. I don't know if I'm close enough to my mic here, but my intent with my holdings is to first go and pay off all debts. I think that's part of the current thinking is that you don't pay off your house, you don't pay off your properties because they're increasing in value and so forth, right? And then whatever currency you have in the system that's earning interest, right? You want to keep it there, and just be smart about how you're spending that money, and don't pay things off. And I think that's, for the most part, it has been true for many years. It's been a strategy that a lot of people have used to gain a lot of wealth. But I think we're coming to the point where that's just not going to be possible anymore. So it is going to be advantageous to pay your debts off, because we know this system is a debt system. It's the beast system that's going to enslave us in debt. And if we can get out of that through precious metals, I think that's where my plan is to spend that as quickly as possible, as soon as the value reaches my target goal to pay off debts. So I just wanted to chime in with that.
Let's jump to the next question, I guess.
I got another scenario if you're
okay. I'm ready.
You ready? All right. So this one actually is something that kind of got people really fearful, heated over the last 3 years, that something like this might happen. So the government collapsed and everyone has been on their own for months. Out of nowhere, 6 men wearing UN uniforms appear at your door, saying that they are with the government and we're here to help. And they say they need your ammo and supplies along with everyone else's in order to help reestablish order. You and your family must comply or be counted as anti-government radicals. Would you enlist and donate all you have to the new government and be counted as a patriot? Or would you be labeled as a terrorist and fight them off if you could?
I think that goes with our last episode we did on terminology. Yeah, bullcrap. If it's the UN, you're not a patriot.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They're an invading force at that.
You are immediately responsible to become the Mel Gibson character in The Patriot. You need to become the guerrilla warfare expert in your neighborhood, right? But you got to learn all that stuff in life way before that happens. If the UN guys show up at my house, I will be as peaceful as possible on that visit.
Maybe give them a box or two of ammo just as a peace offering of some sort.
Well, I would
Tide
I would
mower.
probably give them some food and say, here's what I have. When are you guys going to come back with more for us? Because we're all starving. Right.
Yeah.
You need to appease them into like helping you as much as you can as well. But if they try to come in my house without me inviting them, now they're trespassing. I don't care who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And they're putting me and my family at danger. So that there's some responsibility. That's 100% on them. What happens to them at that point?
And hopefully at this point you've coordinated with your neighbors what to do if this were to happen, right? That you'd have some type of response to these people in your neighborhood that would be large enough and forceful enough to, like Facebook user says, call me a terrorist. You get out of here. You're not welcome here.
Well, I mean, this goes back to there was a lot of people that thought that the military was going to come door to door and they were going to be administering a certain medical procedure to people's arms because of
the shoulder, right?
Yeah, because of a certain a scamdemic, and so that's a real thing. Like you would think that people would be smart enough to realize, hey, wait a minute, this isn't what's happening. But think about what actually happened the last time that this was like the government said, you need to do this for the good of the people, do it for the society. Your personal freedoms are infringing upon the safety of the community. You're going to get a mob, dude. Like you're going to have to realize that this is not going to be an easy scenario to get away from. You might have to take some evasive action. You might have to say, you know what, we have sufficient for our needs right now. Thank you for coming. If I find anything extra, I'll give it to you. Maybe. Then you get out of Dodge, dude, because they're going to go convince the neighbor and the guy across the street, and then everybody's going to gang up. And then before you know it, because literally what happened in Germany, in Nazi Germany, there was 3 out of, I can't remember the exact numbers, but there was a significant percentage of the people that would tattle on their neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I don't know if that goes back to, I don't know who it is, but there's one guy that constantly says, you got to be on your own. But community is important. Community is important, but you got to get a good community. Otherwise you're screwed.
The additional thoughts that come are like, okay, are those 6 men alone? Are they the first wave? Mm-hmm. Are they simply there to investigate?
Are they accompanied by a drone?
Right. Yeah. Or are they taking that food with them right now? Then,
Yeah. And the other thing is if you look at it too, is okay. So 6 people show up. Is my neighborhood already aligned? Would we have already talked about, hey, we see some blue helmets coming in the distance, right? Have we rebuilt our community communication so that we can inform each other what's going on? Mm-hmm. If someone like that shows up to my house, I don't have a kid old enough that I'd trust to say, run door to door and tell everybody the blue hats are coming, right? The UN is here. They're 5 and 4. Like that's tough, right? So that's when you already have to have some caution on your side and be like, okay, let's diffuse the situation as fast as we possibly can and get them away as fast as you possibly can. That might mean tossing them a bucket of food storage and say, I have one of these for you and one of these for me until and we're going to die if you don't bring us more. So when are you bringing us more? And really push it on them to, you say you're here to help, get us resources. We need this and this and this. Hand them a list of all the things you need. Oh, perfect. Here's a list of everything we need. We need this. We need medications. We need water. We need this. And then they'll be like, oh crap, these guys are needy. Okay. Have a good day. We'll be back. Right. Get them out of there the best you can.
Yeah.
But don't incite anything. Like just.
Yeah. Cause you're not going to win that.
You're not going to win. It's
unless you have that plan.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't say anything about them having weapons. So thankfully that that's the case, then you can.
If they've got helmets on, they have weapons. Like, that's always UN patrols always have weapons. Oh,
that's scary.
Yeah. All right, next question. I don't have any other cards.
All right. Let's see.
Make you guys do it.
See if I can pick one out here. Oh, here's a hard one. Your son or daughter died because someone who had a lot of food didn't want to share. Kind of along the same lines there, right? They refused every attempt to barter with you, and you feel they did it out of selfish greed more than anything. Would you plot revenge against them, or do they have the right to do as they please with their resources?
That to me goes back to vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. The other part of that is that I failed in my responsibility as a parent to provide for my child. It's nobody else's job,
That's why we're doing this right now, right? I mean, that's why we're prepping.
dude. That's my number one reason for prepping
Mhm.
is so that my kids are okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Utah Mike, repeat the answer. Cap them. Well, the reality is that if you're a truly responsible, self-reliant individual, you didn't do your job. Your job was to protect those kids, and you didn't do it. And the job of that person that you're asking for, their job is to protect their family. Could they be greedy? Could they be unreasonable? Could they be all those things? Absolutely. And so my suggestion would be move on to somebody else. If you're still not getting results out of the one person, it's insanity to try to continue to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So
yeah.
go find somebody else that may have food, that may be more merciful, more kind. Maybe this guy isn't bartering. Go to the next guy potentially, or go somewhere where you can find that situation, because that's man. If my kid just died because I didn't have food, that realistically that's on me.
Mhm.
Because I'm the father. I should have done what I was supposed to do to be prepared and ready. That's not on the guy. Yeah, he was a jerk. Yeah, he was, whatever you want to call him. But ultimately, the responsibility and self-reliance comes back to the person whose kid that is.
Yeah, and if you take the perspective that, okay, if I'm asking others for food, I'm taking taking food out of their kids' mouths. I'm just, it's just about a situation.
It's
what I'm
that,
in.
It's that balancing act, right? We all have to be very cautious in our balancing act. Like, part of me is like, okay, if someone else comes to me and they've got a starving kid, I'm going to do everything I can to help them. Everything I can, right? There's certain things I can't do. Like, again, it goes back to one of our prior episodes. You can't fix stupid. If they're not taking responsibility and they're not doing something, I might not be able to help them. But if they're willing to do trade for stuff and I can actually get tools that'll help or resources that'll help, man, I will consider that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're just coming to and expecting me to give something without getting something in return, I wouldn't call myself that greedy neighbor that would say no to help. Right
now,
Yeah.
Right now, consider this: it was family, not just a neighbor; it was family, right?
Mm-hmm. That's harder.
Even a harder decision. Yeah.
Well, no, that's harder to want to help because I've been trying and doing everything I can for a decade or more to get them to be self-reliant. And they've, there's going to be animosity there because they've, in many cases, they've been rude to me about it or they've mocked you about it, right? A lot of people have family members that they've now sworn off that they're like, I'm never going to help. I've had family members that I had them in that category for a little while. I'm like, screw them. It's up to them now. I'm not going to be responsible. Now I'm like, okay, I got to do something because I want to be like Jesus, right? I want to be better than where I was. And so being able to do that and being able to help them, that's way hard. That's harder.
Yeah.
Because I've tried so hard to help them and they've refused it. And so now it's like, okay, I'd rather help my neighbor who I didn't ever try to help before because I didn't know him, or some stranger. Man, that's tough.
Yeah. And there's a lot of strategies like Garrett's saying, plan for having extra for others. Man, it's hard enough to get enough for yourself, right? When you realize it's basically 1,000 pounds of food per person per year, that's awfully hard to plan for extra as well. And then what do you do when those people keep coming back?
Mm-hmm.
Where else did they go? Oh, they gave us some, maybe they'll give us some more. But what Christine commented there, let's highlight that one there. I still can't believe we're having this conversation in America. No, absolutely. I mean,
well, did you see what she wrote earlier?
Well, just now.
No, she wrote earlier. The UN soldiers were already here.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
in July they were the tanks coming off the ports in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So that's another. I think that's a follow up to her question earlier. That's like, can you believe that this is America right now?
Absolutely. But I think part of our perspective, that. Again, we've talked about us, being members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We have particular perspective of where this is all going. We've said many times we know where this ends. So we have, you would like to think we have a little bit better perspective or insightful perspective than others, and we know this is going to happen. We know that this American continent is a sacred place. It's a blessed land, and if you're not obedient, if you're not a commandment keeping people, you're going to get thrown off the land. You're going to get destroyed. And that's to the point where we're at right now. So America over any other country is going to be the first one to get this, because we're not an obedient, righteous people is the word I'm looking for, is righteous people. So Christine, I see exactly what you're saying, but I also see the other side of it, to where we deserve it. And I'm not going to say we, they are. And I really try my best not to include myself when I say we, when other people or the country is doing this to us. Those who are not being righteous, they're going to see the vengeance of God. And I'm not surprised that it's, because this is America, is a blessed land.
So God has always promised that he will punish the wicked.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He's also always told us, repent when there's time. He sent prophets all through the Old Testament. He sent prophets all through the New Testament. We learn to live better, right? Everything that the prophets ever tried to teach all collaborated into what Jesus Christ taught, even better. If we're going to truly love God and love our neighbor as ourselves, that I've got to change my heart. And what was the new commandment that was given? Love one another as I have loved you. So what do we do with all this information? What do we do with everything we just talked about? Well, we need to teach people about Jesus Christ first. That will help us change our hearts. Number 2, we need to go back to some prior episodes, and we need to go get 3 chickens to help get rid of our waste, but also provide eggs. Boom, there's one solution. Those 3 chickens can provide you with what your household needs in a lot of ways, protein-wise. Take that $200 from one of the other scenarios right now and go buy wheat and go buy beans and maybe go buy some rice. Like, change our spending habits so that we can get better prepared now, faster. So we can plan for, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, for the extra, right? Plan for the extra, plan for your neighbors. I think what's going to happen as we fall into the future and see things kind of fall apart, there's a lot of people that think of the dystopian things first. It's going to get, there's places it's going to get worse than others. But I think there's going to also be some really neat things seen. I think we're going to see communities come together in a lot of places and a lot of times. I envision myself, one of the things I really want to get is a really big cooking pot with a tripod so that I can cook over coals or a fire. And I kind of envision myself, we have this pavilion down the hill from our home, and our whole neighborhood gathers for different events there. And I think that's going to be where me maybe, doing the neighborhood stew night.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, we just hauled all this stuff down. We took a collection from the community. This is neighborhood stew night. And, come get a bowl. All we can promise is a bowl until it's gone. Please don't come through for seconds until everybody's been fed. There might not be anything for seconds. You might just get a cup worth of stuff. But like, that's where rebuilding and having community is really going to make a difference. So I think, Christine, pasta night, right? Whatever you've got, like, do pasta, do whatever, like, find ways to work with the people that you have near you now so that you have a good relationship built now.
I was going to say, one of the things that bugs me about some of these end of the world scenario movies and Walking Dead and some of these other things is that they only take into consideration the zombie stuff, and they don't take into consideration what we're promised in the scriptures, that those who are righteous and follow and remain true and faithful to Christ are going to be given strength and power to overcome. They're going to be given things that are going to be able to do things that are far beyond what we would normally think is humanly possible to do. And I know there's some real strong, successful, survival scenarios in those movies, but the reality is that God's people are going to have so much more than that. And they're going to be able to have so much more. They don't ever really get into that. And I think there's a reason for that. They want to keep us feeling fearful. They want to keep us thinking that the end of the world is all full of zombies and death and destruction and Mad Max and just government controlling us and tyranny and all that stuff, which actually is going to happen is in the scriptures. But those who remain true and faithful to the things that God has asked them to remain true and faithful to are going to have the power to overcome those things. And they're going to be able to get through and make it through those tribulations. And that's something that I really, wish we had. Not that I say we wish we had Hollywood doing that, because Hollywood's not the best source for anything spiritual and light inducing. But I think it's
Right.
important to realize that as we're going through these scenarios, if you stay close to your principles, you're going to be okay, and you're going to be able to have things. Miracles will come as things are revealed to you in your mind, thoughts, ideas, things that your path in front of you as you're traveling will just be cleared if you're really doing the things that. And now, is that going to mean it's going to be easy and perfect and just roses for everybody? No, but you're going to have a lot more good if you're doing what you're supposed to do than not. So that's just how I want to leave it, if that's
Yep.
okay.
Amen.
Yeah, I look at the examples of Noah and the examples of Israel leaving Egypt. Those, like, was it easy? No, it required a lot of work. Sometimes, like in Noah's situation, a year, like how many years did it take him to build the ark before it actually happened? And he had a year supply of everything in it. Like, we have to do the work now. Like, and it's our responsibility. If you've been prompted to do something, go do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, man, that's going to pay off if you do it. It's going to pay off so much more if you do it. And all the movies and all the books, they have these super fast things that happen. Boom, all society is destroyed and 80% of the population's been wiped out in a week, a month. They jump a year advanced into it and say, "Oh, this is where we are now." And they don't show you everything in between, or they only show you the in between, and then they cut out before they can see that this, hey, we can resolve or we can rebuild. And that's the thing, is we need to be able to rely on God so we can rebuild. And the truth is yes, as a nation, as people all over the world, we need to repent. We need to fix our governments. We need to do everything we can to fix our communities. That's as good as any other prepping activity you can do. Add it to the mix. And that's where we'll leave you. Thank you, everyone, for joining the live today. Thank you, everyone who's listening to the replay. Thanks for being part of us. If you want to help support the station, if you want to help support the podcast, make sure you check out blackbeardfire.com. Head on over there. Use the code PrepperTalk at checkout. It'll save 10% off anything you buy over there. Love it. I've got mine. I'm a big fan. But make sure you get involved with the show. Join our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. We are going to be giving away, until it's gone, when we break 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're giving away 5 ounces of silver and a Jace case, which is your emergency medical antibiotics kit, personal pack. It's worth about $250. So, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the show tonight. Thank you. We had so many amazing comments from participants all over. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you all. Stay ready-minded. Stay God-centered. Focus on your family. Focus on your country. And never stop prepping. Love you guys. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
See you next week.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us.